Hey guys, Will here, just putting in a quick trigger warning regarding rape and suicide. If these are topics you'd like to avoid, please skip to the next episode. If you or a loved one are experiencing depression or suicidal thoughts, if you just need to talk, I will be linking Crisis Counselor Text Line, National Sexual Assault Hotline, Hotline for Suicide Prevention, and LGBT Crisis in the description of this episode. Thank you for listening, and I hope y'all are doing okay. So this is the part where the intro song would be playing, and now I say, welcome back to Words Are Hard. And finally I have a guest on the podcast this week, and I'm really excited. And do you want me to use your full name, or do you just want me to use your first name, or do you want to use an alias, or
I mean, we can go with Lynn. I'm Lynn. Hi.
Okay. Hi, everyone say hi to Lynn. I'm just going to put like an audio track in where everyone's clapping Lynn. In the background. Okay, I turned my camera around because I was nervous, but I'm back. I feel like I'm ready now.
What if I just start staring at you? Will that make it worse?
Probably. It's terrifying. I don't like to be the center of attention, but like I made
let's
my own
have
podcast,
your
so I
own
guess I did that to
podcast.
myself. Yeah. Well, I guess that's what Libras do, right? I don't know. I don't know anything about astrology, really.
Leos do something, that's for sure.
Oh, I forgot I had notes. So this week, I asked Lynn if she would watch the podcast, if she would watch the
I've never seen an
documentary on
episode.
Netflix called, if she would watch the documentary on Netflix called Disclosure about trans people in media and how it affects not just trans people, but all people, like all media affects the way that we think and perceive not just the world around us and others, but how we perceive ourselves and our effect on the world. And it was a really good documentary. I have now seen it, I think, 4 times, and I plan on seeing it at least once or twice more, because I'm gonna make my mom watch it.
Just watch it every weekend. It's your Sunday film.
I'm just gonna be able to recite every word in the entire film. I like how when I told you to watch it too, I was like, oh, it's like an hour long, and then I put it on that night, and I was like, oh, an hour and 47 minutes. Okay, all right. Congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah, well, I watched it, so it couldn't have been that bad.
How long ago was it that you watched it? Because we were planning on filming like a week ago, I think.
Yeah,
when we originally watched it.
I probably did watch it about a week ago, give or take. But I can say I have it up, and I'm refreshing my mind as we kind of go through this. So I will be educated, I swear. Bear with me.
Okay. So later today, my friend Theo was going to record with me, and I also asked him to watch Disclosure. And we were just generally going to talk about trans things because we're both trans, but I thought it would also be interesting to have Lynn on so that we could talk about trans, because me and Lynn talk about issues all the time.
Just for the record, I am not trans,
yeah.
And I was almost replaced, but that would have been okay.
Almost replaced by, like, I almost
Theo.
Replaced you?
By Theo. And that's okay, because honestly, Theo deserves to be in the spot way more than me.
No, I actually was thinking that I would do, like, I was going to name these episodes the Trans Cast or something. Part 1 and Part 2. So Part 1 is going to be with a cis person, and then Part 2 is going to be with a trans person, and we can kind of compare the differences in how the conversations go. And I'm not saying that, you know, one is going to be better than the other, but these are my experiences when I talk to my friends. You know what I mean? Like
No, I think that's awesome. I think that's a really, really cool idea. I'm here for it.
I think, because I've also, as you know, I've been watching the show since 8, where it was written by the Wachowski sisters, and so I've literally just binge watched that last week. I was going to do a separate podcast on just that show, and I I've just had trans issues on the forefront of my mind for some reason. I guess because it's just nice sometimes to see myself in things that I watch. Even if I still haven't seen a trans guy to save my life. But I think when I watching Disclosure, I realized that there are a lot of movies that I haven't seen that maybe I should have, like Boys Don't Cry. And
wow, you've never seen that movie?
I've never seen Boys Don't Cry. I've never seen The Crying Game. I've never seen Victor Victoria. But when I think trans movies, I think Tu Wong Fu with Love or whatever it is with Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, and
right.
I can't remember the other guy's name.
So in other words, we're going to be back with more movies.
Yeah, I hope so. Because this will...
Part 2, Boys Don't Cry.
I don't know if I could... I would probably have to pay for that movie. I think that's why I picked Disclosure, because I don't have to... I don't pay for either of the Netflix accounts that I use.
It's okay, because neither do I. Let's see, I have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. I don't pay for any of them.
Yeah. Well, Disney Plus is only like $7, right? Which is why they're still charging people $30 to watch Mulan. Did you see that?
Mulan is gonna... And
yeah.
I understand, because let's be, COVID, and might as well, it's the movie theater prices, so they gotta have to make their money somehow. But also, no, Disney, no.
Yeah,
don't be mean.
Well, Disney and Nickelodeon both are just like, because lately I've been falling down the hole of like the child molester producers that they employ.
Oh, this is a whole another subject.
We could do a whole podcast just on that shit. Like, it is insane, and it is
We're less than 10 minutes in, and I feel we are already on a completely other topic.
I know. I just feel so bad for, like... I mean, basically all the girls that I grew up watching on Nickelodeon Disney Channel. Like, I honestly also wouldn't be surprised if, like, Miley Cyrus came out one day and said she was sexually...
expose the Disney Corporation, please.
Finally, please do it. It's about time. I mean, I don't know how many times Disney has been exposed, but they've survived all of them, obviously.
Because it's fucking...
They're still opening Disneyland in the middle of a fucking pandemic. They don't fucking care. They don't fucking care.
I may be a Floridian, but I haven't been to Disney in over 15 years.
I've never been to Disney, either of them.
Do you want to go to Disney one day? I'll take you.
I don't know. It's been so long since I've even been to an amusement park. I honestly could not tell you the last time that I went to one, because I've never been to any of the ones that were in Colorado.
Honestly, they're expensive.
They are.
Like, Disney
I thought they were expensive before.
Florida resident, discounts and all this shit, but it's like, girl, that ain't a discount. That's the price it takes for me to park the car in the parking lot.
Yeah. I remember it used to be like $30 just to park. It used to be $80 for a season pass, or like $100 for a ticket for the day per person. So we used to get the season passes for everybody. That was like the first ID that I ever had, really, besides my school ID, was this season pass to Six Flags. And I remember loving it so much because I had my really long, like, Justin Bieber hair, and I looked so much like a guy in my Six Flags season pass. I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I am going to use this for the rest of my life. So let's finally get into Disclosure. Now, I want to, first of all, just highly recommend watching it. It's on Netflix if you have a Netflix subscription, like 95% of the entire planet. And I think what really interested me from the beginning of the movie was about how in the first movie, I think, not in the first movie ever, but in the movie where okay, hold on. I gotta, like, look at it. basically trans people have been in the media since the beginning of movies.
Since, let's be realistic, they've been around just as long as fucking blackface has in film.
Yeah, and I mean, I think
can we just go ahead and touch on this real fast, because I wasn't aware, if you will, that okay, so we know that blackface in film was used as comedy, if you will. It was looked at as nothing more than a comedy sketch.
Right.
Well, trans people in media were the same, and I didn't know that. They were the butt of the joke. They were people dressed up and made a mockery of trans people to something else to laugh at, if you will. Which was kind of eye-opening to me, as somebody who didn't know. I mean, let's be real. The first trans person that I can ever really remember seeing in media right in my face was Laverne Cox in Orange is the New Black. I mean, yes, there were, maybe if you want to consider like Max from the L Word and things like that, but
oh my god,
I still I wouldn't consider that as a character that's just been broadcasted and shoved in your face. Like, here is the star, if you will. Laverne Cox, on the other hand, she was all over the media, and she was plastered as, this look who we have in our show, which is awesome.
Well, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Laverne Cox is actually a trans woman.
For sure.
And her character, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would assume her character was in a way written around who she is, in a sense. Obviously the whole fact that she's in jail was added to fit the show, but I never felt for a moment that Laverne Cox was really playing anyone else but herself. And I'm not saying that as a criticism like people usually would, like, oh, they just play themselves and everything. But I think that's why she was so loved, because she was the same way off the screen as she was on the screen.
It was also a sense of authenticity, if you will.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Michelle Rodriguez, didn't she play a trans character in some movie of hers?
I don't remember what movie it was, but yeah, and she was like, her and Scarlett Johansson have the same stance about it. They're like, it's acting, I'm supposed to play parts. And they just...
And,
literally,
let's be real, they are 110% correct. You, as an actor, do nothing but play parts. But why do you have to play a part when there are 100, if not thousands, of actual trans actors and actresses that could play the part 10 times better?
Sorry, I just kept hearing random noises from the walls.
Your house is haunted.
Well, and yeah, that's kind of I just want to say that I don't respect Scarlett Johansson at all anymore, ever since she said, still to this day defends Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, no, not at all.
And these actors who say or defend playing trans roles, at the end of the day would never defend playing blackface, because they know that it's wrong, and they know that that blackface was created to create a stereotype of black people and demean them and diminish their value, and but they don't see cis people playing trans characters as the same way, because they see trans people themselves as people playing dress up. By accepting a role and playing a trans character as a cis person, you are thereby saying, I don't think that trans people are valid. Because they're not actually transitioning. They're just playing a role.
Yeah, it's no different than when I've seen it in plenty of shows. Hell, I think I've even, the one that's coming to mind is How I Met Your Mother, where the joke is a man dressed as a woman, whether it's to get the job or to be at a all-women facility or something. That's the joke. It's the big, ha-ha, look at this guy who's very clearly a man dressed in a wig and a pink dress. That's way too, small for him, essentially. I feel like that's been portrayed so many times. And
it's such a
honestly,
common...
I'm tired of it. I'm bored.
I'm bored of it too, which is why I got so enveloped in Sense8, and I really don't want to dive too deep into it on this podcast.
Because it's the authenticity of it all.
Right, it's and it's one thing for a cis person to try and create a good trans character. It's another thing. So if you remember in Disclosure, they actually do interview, I believe it's Lena Winchowski, and she and her sister wrote the trans character Nomi in Sense8. She said as a vehicle to then basically cope with her own experience as a trans woman. She created this character out of thin air to then deal with her own experience. Instead of finding a character and then relating to them, she created a character that she could actually relate to. And that to me is so powerful, and it makes me feel empowered that I can go out and I can create trans characters. I don't have to wait for someone to do it for me. And I can go out and I can create a podcast, and I have all this power and I didn't even realize it. And I think it's kind of like, I remember having a conversation with someone about like black empowerment and how white people are always so encouraged to overcome and to push forward and all this other stuff, but black people are never encouraged to take the same route. Like, no one empowers anyone but white people most of the time. And if you respect yourself the same way a cis white heterosexual man respects himself, then you're going to get a lot farther than if you just saw yourself in the same eyes what is it called? Like internalized racism or internalized transphobia is like so real and so ingrained and so deep within us. And I mean, like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you are in a marginalized group, like you as a cis woman are still marginalized in some way, even though you're white, even though you're cis. Like if you walked into a boardroom, you're still going to be told to shut the fuck up because you're a woman. And like, that's still something that you internalize. Like saying sorry if you have to ask for something, or like moving out of the way when you're walking down the street because a man is coming towards you. Like, these are all things that we're just
bump into that
taught.
Man and you tell him to shut up.
You just walk your fist right into his fucking face.
No,
that's
I'm so sorry. This fist has a mind of its own.
Well, even the whole internalized misogyny thing, like the other day. Well, so think I was socialized as a woman, right? So I still have this problem where I say sorry all the time, and I literally the other day my coworker Chris elbowed me, and I didn't say sorry because I didn't ask for him to say sorry because he elbowed me. I said sorry, I walked my body into your elbow. I literally said that, and I didn't even think about it until right now, but that's such a weird fucking thing to think.
Essentially.
Isn't it? Like, cis guys never think that type of shit. I mean, I assume not. I don't know. I'm not a cis guy.
Maybe if we all were all white cis men, the world would be a better place. That's what they all want from us. Just give it to them.
So that'd be really funny. Weird concept. Just hear me out. Is if, like, when Hitler was like, I want everyone to have blonde hair, blue eyes, instead of killing everyone else, he just had them transition. He had all the women transition into men. He had all the black people bleach their skin. Like, it could have been way different.
Dye our hair. And if, honey, if your roots were showing, get the fuck out.
Yeah. See, I would get killed because my roots are showing.
Did Hitler have brown hair and brown eyes?
I'm pretty sure he did. At least in all the black and white video, his hair was not white.
It's just like my guy. What do you want? Do you want?
It doesn't make sense. Hitler didn't. I don't even want to get into politics about this, to be honest. That's
I'm
a
not the
whole
co-host
other
to be
thing.
having that.
But I wanted to because they did talk about Caitlyn Jenner in Disclosure a little bit, and like a lot of the trans women they interviewed in the documentary were involved with I Am Kate, and how long ago was that? I think it was 2015 when Caitlyn came out, and I remember like waiting for because he did an interview with Katie Couric, I think, right? Or was it Martha Stewart? No, it definitely wasn't Martha Stewart.
I think she was too busy.
No, it was Diane.
With Snoop Dogg, you know?
Yeah. Dude, Martha Stewart's pretty lit, I'm not going to lie.
You're
too
not,
much coffee today, I'm
wrong.
burping. But, no, I remember watching that interview. I was like really tripping on acid that day. And it took us like 7 hours to watch the entire interview because we kept pausing it to talk about it. Like, because I didn't really know who Caitlyn Jenner was before. Like, I just knew her as, like, Kim Kardashian's parent. And so I learned all this stuff about the masculinity that she used to represent. And then to have her just come out on national television, primetime national television,
too, might I add. It was just
literally
one
out
day.
of nowhere. It's like when Beyonce just dropped an album with nothing, no notice,
one to the other, and people were just like blindsided. And I think that's part of the reason why it had such an impact that it did, because not only was it like almost like a inspiring moment for those in the trans community, and they were like, yes, tell your story, we're ready to hear you, we're embracing you with open arms. But then you also had, I guarantee you, white cis men who were sitting there like almost feeling betrayed. Like, how dare you betray this masculinity? You're a man and you should be so proud to be one, and now you're just betraying all of us and throwing it away. And it's
I hate that so much. That sentiment right there, that you said that you should love being a man, because in Disclosure there's this scene from the L Word where what's her face is telling Max that Max is giving up the most precious thing in the world, which is being a woman. That no one has ever told me anything like that, but for some reason that concept angers me so much, because being a woman may be the most precious thing in the world. I mean,
I get it. They're trying,
but it is the thing that makes me want to kill myself.
It almost as a, love who you are, love the the body that you were born with, and love what you've been given, and all these things. But it's not even about that, honestly. They try to make it seem that way, but it is.
Well, and that's what the one guy said. It was like they were trying to create a female empowerment message through a trans male character, which is like really insulting, because it's invalidating his transness for the sake of female empowerment, that he should love his body, and he's just a misogynist because he doesn't. What the fuck is that?
Sense. But you also have to think about the L Word, whether or not it wants to try to portray itself as this huge LGBT inclusive show. It is so toxic, and it is so lesbian centered that it almost shits on everything else, if you will.
It does. It even shits on bisexuality. The whole thing with Tina falling in love with a man after her and then
how she's completely,
I can't remember her name.
Again, just betraying her other females, and her lesbianism is being just thrown out the window, and it's such an insult. And chill.
And what fucks me up is that because you and I 14? Were probably like 16 or 17.
The first time I think I watched the L Word, I was probably 14 or 15.
I watched it late. The first time I watched it was like right before I transitioned. Like literally, I think I stopped watching the L Word, and like 3 months later, I came out. Because I started watching it when I moved to Colorado. And then the summer that year, I actually came out, even though looking back at like receipts, I literally started transitioning, but I don't think that I knew that that's what I was doing. And I don't think that I knew that there was a word for what I was doing, even though I knew someone who was transitioning female to male. I just didn't realize that that's what I was. I don't even know what I'm saying. I don't even know because I can't believe I don't remember that period of my life. And like, I remember thinking before I actually came out, it was like, you know, after my dad dies and my mom dies, I'm going to move away from everyone I know, and then I'm going to be whoever I feel like I need to be, and no one can call me a freak because no one's going to know me, and I'm not going to have any friends. Like, that was how I thought my life was going to go. And so I think now, living as a 25-year-old trans man, it's very difficult for me to, like, look towards the future, because for like literally 90% of my life, I never thought I would get this far and be who I am right now. So I'm constantly trying to figure out, and I'm trying to seek out other trans people and look at their lives and how they've lived, and realizing I'm realizing that I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like, just because I'm trans doesn't mean I can't do shit.
Well, it's almost kind of like, I know they kind of touched base on this in Disclosure, but it's almost hard to recognize what's going on with yourself when you don't even know that exists, essentially. So when you finally see something that's representative of yourself on the big screen, it's almost like, wow, you know, I'm valid in this. You know, I'm not alone. I'm not going crazy. I'm not just overreacting and thinking that, you know, pulling it out of my ass, if you will. It's real. It's valid. And I can do this with support.
So I have a question for you, because me and Lynn have known each other since long before I transitioned.
We were babies.
And as she knows very well, I was the biggest, fattest fucking lesbian in the world. Like, I spent so much time being a lesbian that it's not even funny.
Though.
And
Same.
I guess I just want to ask you, like, the first question I have is, when I first came out to you, what was your very first thought? Like, when I don't know if I texted you
I don't remember
what it
how
was.
You came out, I guess, if you will, to me. All I remember thinking is, oh, yeah, sick. Fucking, it's about time. Like, where have you been?
Dude, that was like, my dad's reaction,
it's fucking
too.
Sick. Let's do this.
I feel like that was a lot of people's reactions.
What you need from me?
I think that I feel like a lot of people knew before I did.
That's the way it happens.
And
most of the time.
Well, I just don't, like, I've seen a lot of, like, trans men specifically who, before they transitioned, they were either completely, like, feminine and, like, you would never guess it, or there was this very short period of time where they were like non-binary, and then they realized, oh no, like, there are a lot of people who knew they were trans and wanted to transition but were too afraid to, so they, like, became hyper feminine. And that is so the opposite of my experience.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because my experiences are completely different. And, you know, maybe you can tell me whether or not this is something that's almost stereotypical, because I feel like it is. But my experiences with trans men specifically ones that I know personally. Well,
Are
yeah,
always
it's a lesbian thing that their masculinity shows. It's as simple as that. Whether it's, super butch by the end or, just full on, just threw their femininity out the window, you knew.
Right.
Or maybe they, just a tomboy or whatever, but eventually it's like when they transition, it's like, oh yeah, okay, makes sense. Like my ex, I was in a long-term lesbian relationship for years with a woman who was pretty transphobic. Let's be honest here. She was 110% transphobic. And then ended up being trans. Ended up transitioning, and
yeah, he is trans now, and I have a lot of resentment,
particularly for the transphobic behaviors that were placed towards you for, transitioning before him, I guess.
Yeah, for like literally being your friend and being trans and existing. Like, I was called it. I can't tell you how many fucking times I was called disgusting. I was called I don't think I have ever experienced as much transphobia as I experienced.
Would it be fair to say that most transphobia?
I'm glad they found who they are and he's transitioning and all this great stuff. Hope they're happy now. Hope they've dealt with a lot of the shit, but he's also done a lot of shit to a lot of people, and I don't know if it's up to every individual person to say whether or not
if you're watching, I hope
but
you're...
I don't forgive you for your transphobia because you haven't fucking said sorry
if you just so happen to be watching this, I'm sure you know who you are by now, and William needs an apology, and we hope you're educated is all we gotta say. We hope you're educated.
Yeah, I hope you are not out there treating
and
people
I hope
the way
nobody
that
is treating you that way,
especially
either.
Now that you are trans.
Because that would be shitty.
Honestly, no one deserves that kind of trauma. Oh my god, there's so many trans things that I could talk about. And what I think when I say trans things, it's kind of like being a lesbian, but you were so jealous when a girl would like a guy. Not because you're biphobic, but because he has a penis and you don't. And you don't know why you're so angry about that, but it eats you to your core, and it keeps you awake at night, and you're like, why am I not good enough? If I had a penis, I would be good enough. And then later you realize, oh, that's because I'm trans.
You know what's funny?
I don't feel that way anymore, though.
It's a fair assessment, if you will, that... Okay, while you're looking at cis men and in general, before one transitions, it's almost resentment and clear jealousy mixed into...
Yeah.
Would you say it's fair to assume that they would then adapt those same traits? That they expect, almost like learned observation?
You mean like how trans guys react sometimes sorry, I kind of zoned in and out of that question. I just want to clarify that this is what you're asking me. Is the reason why trans guys act like cis guys sometimes...
Yes and no. So for example, my clear image that I can kind of just pop out real fast is so you know how when Max, going back to the L word, Max in the L word finally transitions, finally starts T, goes through hormone therapy and is starting the whole process, and then turns into the biggest fucking dick ever. And of course, the writers were trying to make it seem like it was a product of the testosterone and it's nothing more than the hormones, getting to him and all this shit. But there was a clear part of Max, or at least from what I saw, that was almost trying to adapt the behaviors that he's witnessed other men having. So for going back to my question,
yes,
let's say, random person X who hasn't transitioned yet is at a bar with a bunch of people and sees cis white men, sitting here like, hey, baby, let me pick you up, and, doing all gross things that cis white men do. Would you say it's fair to assume that X person would then adapt those behaviors and be like, wow, okay, so this is what it's like. This is what it means to be a man. I need to act like this to be accepted and to be one of the guys. I can't act nice and feminine and be a good person because that's too girly.
I feel like this, we could relate this back to assimilation. And I don't want to say that trans men figuring out what it means to be a man is the same as, like Native Americans assimilating to white culture. Because it's not that severe, but it is the same thing. It's the same thing with trans women becoming hyper feminine in order to feel valid and to not be ostracized for not being woman enough. And I had this friend once who was trying to argue that trans women are misogynistic for reinforcing sexist standards on women. But we'll get back into that because disclosure does kind of mention
I'm
that.
I'm here for that conversation. I have my own thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I have words, but I think that every trans person goes through an assimilation journey. Because when I first transitioned, I think Max's transition was obviously exaggerated, and I think it painted a toxic picture of trans people, of trans men specifically. But there's a sense of the writers pushing the testosterone to make him do things, but then there's also Max like grabbing Jenny's arm and being really aggressive and saying, well, you're my girlfriend, this is my party, and you're gonna dance with me, bitch.
I feel like the writers in general
we
were
all
just
go through this
completely uneducated and spun the wrong narrative. Just wanted to throw that out there real fast.
Oh, for sure. I can guarantee you there was not a fucking trans person.
It was probably like, hey, Google,
like,
what are signs and symptoms
is.
of using testosterone? Anger, aggression. Fuck it, we got a plot line.
Yeah. I think we all. I don't know a lot of trans people. Let me put that out there right now. I know more trans people now than I ever have, but that still doesn't mean that I know a lot of trans people, at least comparatively to my cis friends. And I personally know trans men specifically that I talk to regularly or hang out with. I've spoken with a couple over time, but I am not close with any other trans man. So I'm speaking from my own experience in that sense. For me, when I first transitioned, I was transitioning into what I thought it meant to be a man. Now I have transitioned into the man I know I was supposed to be.
Can we just fucking slow clap for that statement?
That
because that should be the fucking caption of this entire podcast right there. That is literally the best statement I have ever heard you say. Fuck, words are hard, man. This is... Oh my God. That
was easy. Where's my Staples? That was easy button.
Okay? Just slow clap, round of applause.
Oh, well, I think there's because I think what I thought a man was supposed to be was the epitome of toxic masculinity. And I think a lot of trans men in the beginning of their transition, especially if they're not on testosterone, they can't get testosterone, or they have bodies which don't allow them to pass to cis people very easily, and like they can't afford binders, or their voice is particularly high and their voice training doesn't work very well.
10 times more toxic.
That's when, right, it can. I'm not saying every time it does, but when you're desperate to be validated as who you
gotta
know
act the
you are
part.
on the inside. And the only way people are going to respect that is if you present a toxic masculinity. The only way they're going to identify you as being masculine is if you punch them in the face. Like, I understand where that comes from because I was there. But as you become more comfortable in your identity, and yes, that comes with the privilege of passing. Like, I am fully aware of that. Like, whenever I tell someone I'm trans, they're like, wow, I had no idea. And I'm like, boobies. It's like in the documentary, all the trans men in media, like, instead of having a conversation, they're just like, tits! I got tits!
Okay, but I know plenty of men that have bigger tits than I do. And, and I'm talking cis men. I'm jealous, okay?
Yeah. Well,
my baby took them all away.
I thought it was interesting. They had the one trans woman in Nip Tuck play a trans man in the show. And they had her transition from a woman into a man. And I was like, literally, how the fuck?
I can only imagine the amount of
she took that
therapy she
role.
must have needed afterwards. That's almost like...
Like, if I had to play a part where I transitioned into a woman, I would not be able to. I'm sorry. Like, I am still, to this day, not comfortable enough to do that.
And trigger warning here. That's almost like asking rape victims that, let's say hypothetically, this big rape victim, a huge fucking case that got national news. They just so happen to make a Lifetime. Yeah, they made a Lifetime documentary about it, and they wanted the exact same victim to reenact it. Like, who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah. I've thought about that too, because I remember me and my dad talking about it, because in Orange is the New Black, they actually had Laverne Cox's brother play her pre-transition instead of asking her to dress as a man to play herself pre-transition. And I honestly think that kind of thing is a case-by-case basis, and it depends on the trans person you're working with. And if they will be... Because, I mean, also the assumption that every trans person was the stereotypical idea of their gender before they transitioned is also wrong, too, because it's like, I was never feminine. I almost said a trans man my whole
pretty
life.
Close.
Well, technically, yes. But I've been a tomboy... I was a tomboy much longer than I've been a trans man. I didn't want to wear dresses before I could even talk. I was getting out of girly things. I was telling my parents when I first could talk that where's my penis, basically. Like, why don't I have a penis? And my dad would be like, 'cause you're a girl. And I would be like, but I'm a boy. And so I've known this my whole life, which makes me have so many questions about, like, what makes trans people trans in the brain. Like, because it is almost like having a phantom limb. Like, I go to look down for my penis, but I have no pee-pee. I have no penis. Bless.
Honestly, I need to be blessed
soul.
After this conversation.
Oh, wait. So you have seen Boys Don't Cry.
Okay, so let me just clarify. I have seen Boys Don't Cry, specifically because I just have a very weird crush on Hilary Swank. But
honestly, if she transitioned,
so when I first saw Boys Don't Cry, it was easily close to 10 years ago. It was one of those movies that I just watched in a series of binging lesbian movies on Netflix. So I'm not going to be...
Sorry, I'm trying to find the part.
% fluid about what happens in the movie. I definitely need a refresher on that one. But yes, the general premise of the show the movie is pretty intense.
No, you're fine, because... Well, I only
It's a
know
lot.
of it what I saw in Disclosure, but from what I saw, yeah, it looked like at first it was very. I don't want to say it was all inaccurate because I apparently it was based on a true story. But the part before the rape scene that they were talking about, which I am going to put a trigger warning in the beginning of the podcast for rape and in the description, but where they force her to take her they force the trans man to take his pants off. Sorry, I keep thinking of Hilary Swank. And they force his girlfriend to look at his genitals. That right there is literally every single time I think about dating a girl specifically, I think about that moment when we go to have sex and she sees my genitals. And I think, oh my God, I'm so disgusting. That is the first thought I have every single time I think about it. And it's not what I actually believe about myself, but it's something that's been so ingrained in me. And I never realized it like the one episode of Family Guy where Brian accidentally sleeps with Quagmire's trans mother and he throws up for a good 5 minutes straight. Like, no wonder I think I'm disgusting. It's because everyone else makes me feel like I'm disgusting. Everything in media makes me feel like I'm disgusting. And when I saw Sense8, and the first time they introduced Nomi, she's having sex naked with her lesbian lover, and it's pure joy and love, and it's unapologetic. The first opening scene for Nomi as a trans character, they literally end the scene with a wet dildo. And that is the last scene of the entire series. They end it with a wet dildo. And to me, it meant so much to me knowing, one, that a trans woman wrote that character, wrote the scene, that it was about a trans character, and that I have never ever seen a trans person have positive sexual experiences in media before.
The sexual assault scene
I literally sobbed.
That was in Boys Don't Cry is one that I feel like has been done and will continue to be done over and over again, because let's be honest, it's almost like Hollywood feels that trans people and the struggles that they have to go through is entertainment for us to watch. It's almost like, people have their serial killer guilty pleasures. They like to watch the crazy shit that happens. It's almost like, ooh, give me more. This trans character is struggling really hard and being assaulted. Ooh, this is great entertainment. But that's not the thing.
Right, it's like it's so they don't realize far from them, and they're so separate
the scene
from
in Boys Don't Cry
that it
where
is just
he's basically fucking beaten the hell up within an inch of his life and then assaulted like that. I mean, we've seen similar things, obviously not to that extreme, but I don't know if you recall this, but in the later seasons of Degrassi, they had a trans character, Adam, who appeared, and he had a crush on this girl who was in his, I think it was a dance group or whatever, school club. And a substitute teacher comes in one day, is reading off the attendance list. Everyone says here, and then they accidentally say their pre-transition name instead of Adam. So then he basically outs Adam as a trans guy to this entire class that had no idea by calling him his pre-name. And that's when the girl who he had a crush on was like, wait, so you're a girl? And then fucking rips his shirt open, exposing him to the entire fucking school in the middle of the hallway, and get away from me. And it's just like, why are trans guys or just trans people why are their traumas subjected to being cheap entertainment?
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like Laverne Cox mentioned that, and so did Jamie Clayton. It was, why are these the narratives that keep getting told over and over again? Why are these the narratives that writers write, that producers produce, that directors direct?
I'm gonna
that
say
Hollywood
it again.
keeps releasing.
I'm bored.
There's such a long chain of command that this goes through, and no trans people are ever fucking involved. These are traumatizing trans stories, not written for the benefit of trans people. They're written for... It's like, I think that showing rape, explicit rape in movies and shows does not need to be a thing. Because 99% of the time, it's not written by a rape victim. It's not written for a rape victim.
Entertaining and scary.
No rape victim can benefit from watching rape. Better hope this doesn't
happen to you when you're sitting on your couch in your nice, comfy home and surrounded by, people you love. And it's just like, no one's making these movies for you, Karen. That's what it is. They're making them for Karens. We have solved a mystery.
That's the thing. I just... fucking Karens. I think... I don't want to make a blanket statement and say that no rape victims can benefit from watching rape on television. Like, I feel like that's a pretty strong statement to make because I am not every person who's ever been raped. And I think
I guess exposure therapy is a thing, but
maybe if you don't realize that you've been raped and then you watch what happened to you happen on television and then they classify it as rape, maybe that could be beneficial to you. But would you, if you didn't know, would you want to know?
But what you don't know, will also find ways to come up and present itself across your life.
Yeah, for sure. Like if, you were pregnant out of nowhere and you're like, I'm a virgin.
We're not going to get into that.
But Jane the Virgin. No. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't mean to bring this podcast into rape territory. And I've said that word a lot. Honestly, it's just one of those
topics that needed to be discussed. And now that it has, we can brush our hands and move on.
Well, I would just like to end it with saying, if it sits wrong with you that almost every trans narrative and everything involves some type of sexual assault or rape, obviously that shit happens in the real world, but it is not every trans person's everyday life. So maybe start showing some positive things about trans people. Our lives are not buried in despair 24/7. I think that's another thing that I've noticed about a lot of trans media is that we're always just so sad and depressed. Yeah, I have bipolar disorder. Yeah, I struggle with depression and anxiety. But for the most part, I'm having a good time. I go out with my friends and I party and I drink and a lot of trans people have one night stands and they live perfectly quote unquote normal lives like cis people do. But that's never shown because that's not interesting. Because you don't explicitly know that this character is trans, and first of all, it's none of your fucking business.
And I'm sure there are more trans people that I've seen in media that I don't even realize that are trans.
Yeah. Where's the narrative where someone says I'm trans and they're okay, cool, you want to go get burgers? Can I just get one show that does that?
Subject. Just end it with if you or a loved one has ever struggled with sexual assault or rape or anything and needs somebody to talk to, you should definitely reach out to the National Sexual Assault Telephone Hotline, which I'm sure Will can put the number in the description.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's also a LGBTQIA specific hotline, if I'm not mistaken, which I'll also have to look up, and I'll put that down in the description. This is the first time I filmed the podcast that's actually an hour long. We're at 55 minutes right now. I'm in
Let's
shock.
log off and play games.
I'm oh, okay. Also, well, the first thing I wanted to say was thank you so much for coming on my podcast, Lynn. I really appreciate it.
Call 911.
I had a lot of fun.
Let me out of the basement.
I've been wanting to talk about disclosure for a while, and this was really fun. And if you guys have not heard already, my podcast is officially on Spotify, and I'm really excited about that. This is going to be the first podcast to be uploaded to Spotify. Well, not the first one, but it's going to be like the first one that I've recorded since I got Words Are Hard on Spotify. So you can check out new episodes every day on YouTube on Wednesdays. So I don't know if I told anyone this, but the reason that I chose Wednesdays is because Jenna Marbles left the internet. And I decided that since she's not going to be putting videos on Wednesdays
Jenna
anymore,
Marbles.
I will
Just
start
kidding.
putting videos up on Wednesdays. Just so that I can feel less empty inside. I will never claim to be a replacement for that honey. She is more than the internet ever fucking deserved. So it just gives me something to do on Wednesdays now. Something to look forward to.
We all
on
need a little
Wednesdays
bit of happiness
since
in
Jenna
these
Marbles
trying times.
Yeah. And you can also follow me on Instagram, okay, but like I'm trying. And I don't even know if I just said my Instagram handle right. I think I just got it wrong. I'll have all this stuff linked down in the description below. But until next week, I guess this is goodbye.
Bye.
So have a great week, guys. Bye.